Have you ever stopped to think about why we're so quick to take credit for the good things in life, but just as quick to blame something else when things go wrong? It's something we all do, and it's called the self-serving bias. And it's fascinating how much it affects our daily lives. Hello, my name is Julian Gutierrez, and today I'll be diving into this concept and how it shapes the way we view our successes and our failures. The reflection question I'll be answering today is: it is difficult to live in a specific culture without picking up some biases. What biases are you aware of in yourself? Do you have any self-serving biases? How do these biases affect your communication? What is the self-serving bias? The self-serving bias is a psychological tendency that affects how we interpret events in our lives. It leads us to take credit for positive outcomes by attributing them to internal factors like our intelligence, skills, or effort. At the same time, it allows us to avoid blame for negative outcomes by attributing them to external factors such as bad luck, unfair circumstances, and other people. For example, if you win a competition, you might think, I won because I'm talented and worked hard. But if you lose, you're more likely to think the judges were biased and or the conditions were unfair. This bias acts as a defense mechanism to protect our self-esteem by focusing on our successes and minimizing responsibility in our failures. It helps us maintain confidence and avoid feelings of inadequacy. However, it can also lead to distorted perceptions of reality, making it harder to take accountability or recognize areas where we need to improve. Understanding the self-serving bias is important because it not only affects how we see ourselves, but also influences our communication and relationship with others. Recognizing this bias is a first step towards a more balanced and honest self-reflection. How the self-serving bias works. Have you ever noticed how we tend to credit ourselves for the good things in life, but quickly blame external factors when things don't go our way? That's the self-serving bias at work. This psychological tendency influences how we interpret our successes and our failures. When we succeed, we attribute it to internal factors like our abilities, intelligence, and or hard work. For example, if I ace a test, I might think, I'm so smart, I'm so prepared. But when we fail, we shift the blame outward to factors like bad luck, unfair circumstances, or someone else's mistakes. If I do poorly, I might say, the questions were unfair, or I didn't have enough time. This bias helps protect our self-esteem by minimalizing feelings of guilt or inadequacy, but it also distorts our perception of reality and making it harder to take accountability. The impact of self-serving bias. The self-serving bias doesn't just affect how we see ourselves. It impacts our relationships and communication with others. When we constantly shift blame or take excessive credit, it can make us defensive and even less empathetic. For instance, in a group project, if things go well, I might overemphasize my contributions while downplaying those of my teammates. On the flip side, if a project fails, I might point fingers at others rather than reflecting on what I could have done better. This creates tension and can erode trust in relationships. The bias also limits personal growth as it stops us from critically evaluating our mistakes and learning from them. In essence, while the self-serving bias helps protect our self-image, it can create barriers to meaningful connections and self-improvement. Overcoming self-serving bias. Overcoming the self-serving bias starts with self-awareness. Reflecting on how we attribute success and a failure is a key step. Ask yourself, am I being fair in how I'm evaluating the situation? Seeking constructive feedback from others can also help our perspective. When someone points out areas for improvement, it might only sting, but it's an opportunity for growth. Practicing humility is another important strategy. Recognizing that success often involves external factors, like support from others and favorable circumstances, helps us stay grounded. Lastly, take accountability for failures. Instead of shifting blame, consider how you can learn from the experience and do better next time. By acknowledging this bias and working to counteract it, we not only improve ourselves but also strengthen our relationship and communication with others. Recognizing my biases. Ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is when we judge other cultures based on our own values and standards. It often involves viewing our culture as normal or superior way of doing things. Now, even though that might sound bad, please allow me to explain. As a Mexican American, I am deeply rooted in a culture that values perseverance through hardship and places great importance on core principles such as family, respect, and humility. These cultural values have profoundly influenced my worldview, shaping how I interact with others and navigate life's challenges. For example, I hold deep admiration for the resilience my community demonstrates in facing challenges such as financial hardships and familial obligations. This admiration, however, sometimes leads me to unfairly judge individuals from other culture backgrounds, assuming that their struggles may not be as significantly or deeply rooted in perseverance. Without realizing it, I may compare their experiences to my own cultural framework, which can hinder my ability to fully appreciate and validate their perspectives. Overcoming ethnocentrism. Overcoming ethnocentrism starts with developing cultural awareness by learning about other cultures' values and traditions, which helps us understand their perspective without judgment. Practicing cultural relativism is also key, recognizing that every culture has its own valid way of life and reframing our thoughts to appreciate their context rather than comparing it to our own. Active listening plays an important role in breaking down biases, as it allows us to truly hear and understand others without imposing our own values. Challenging assumptions and seeking diverse experiences like engaging in meaningful conversations or exploring different culture practices further broadens our own perspective. Ultimately, fostering empathy bridges the gap between different worldviews, encouraging mutual respect and deeper connections. Today, we've explored the self-serving bias, how it influences the way we interpret successes and failures, its impact on communication and relationships, and how we can overcome it through self-awareness and reflection. We also touched on other biases like ethnocentrism and how recognizing these tendencies help us understand and connect with others more effectively. Growth isn't about being perfect, but about striving to be better, questioning our assumptions, seeking feedback, and learning from diverse perspectives. By committing to this process, we can foster stronger relationships and become more empathetic and self aware individuals. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self reflection and growth, and I hope it inspires you to continue your own journey of understanding, curiosity, and connection with the people and the world around you. Thank you, and goodbye.